In this example, we're going to look at taking this number that's given and round it to a number of different place values. So remember, when we're rounding numbers, and this goes back to rounding whole numbers, we're looking for a rounding digit and a test digit. So the first one, where it asks us to round this number to the nearest tenth, we understand that this 1 right here is our rounding digit because it's in the tenths place. And then the digit 1 to the right of it, which in this case is the 9, is our test digit. And so based on the fact that the test digit is a 9, we understand that we will be rounding the 1 up to a 2. Everything to the left of that place value stays as it is. And then remember, with whole numbers, everything to the right becomes 0. But we can leave off all those zeros when we're rounding decimals, because we understand that 56,453.2 is the same as 56,453.20. They're the same exact thing. And so we don't need to show all those zeros that come after it. Alright, now the next example has us round to the nearest 1,000. So one thing we need to make sure of when we are rounding decimal numbers is that we read really carefully. Notice that this says the nearest 1,000. There's no th at the end. So that means I'm actually rounding to the left of the decimal. So my rounding digit is the 6, and my test digit is this 4. And so since the 4 is less than 5, I'm going to leave the 6 alone. And so what I end up with here is just 56,000. And again, because everything zeroes out to the right, we're going to need these 3 zeros. You've got to have zeros for place values in the whole part of the number. But once you get to that decimal point, then you just leave everything else off. Because of course 56,000 is the same as 56,000.0. It's the same thing. It's kind of like saying $56,000 is the same as $56,000 and 0 cents. All right, we understand those are the exact same thing, so we can just leave off the decimal. All right, now it's asking us to round to the nearest hundredth. So let me get rid of my marks from the last one. So to round to the nearest hundredth, let's identify that place value. That would be this 9 right here. And then the test digit to go along with that is the 1 immediately to the right. So since the test digit is a 9, we need to round this up 1, but 9's as high as it can go. So remember, what we have here is a situation where we're then going to have to bump 19 up to 20. So we end up with 56,453.20. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave this 0 here, and that's just because it asked me to round to the nearest hundredth, and so I'm going to keep that hundredths place, but I am going to drop everything else off and not put any zeros there. You would still be correct if you left this 0 off. If you said 56,453.2, that's still going to be correct for our purposes, but it would be understandable to leave this 0 here. Alright, the next example, it wants us to round the number to the nearest whole. So understand, when they're asking you to round to the nearest whole, that really means round to the nearest 1, or the ones place. So those mean the same thing. So my rounding digit is the 3, my test digit is the 1. 1 is less than 5, and so I'm going to leave 3 alone and 0 everything else out. So this is 56,453. And finally, we'll round to the nearest 10,000th. So the 10,000ths place, we understand, is 4 places to the right of the decimal. So because we have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. So the 0 is my rounding digit, the 8 is my test digit, and since 8's bigger than 5, we're going to bump that 0 up to a 1. So my answer is 56,453.1991.